So let me very quickly mention to you Charles Dickens' England. Now, you know that I had complained about The Queen not being a real film.
Well, you say it was sort of more for television.
Yeah, I said it's not a real film.
Yeah, because it was made for television.
It's made for television, yeah. And that was why, when I was at the BAFTAs, Dame Helen Mirren came and tapped me on the shoulder and went, "Oi, what do you mean it's not a real film?" At which point I went, "Oh, it's Helen Mirren." And I prevented myself from launching into a staunch defence of Tinto Brass's original cut of Caligula at that point. But Helen said, the problem was, it's a television.
She'd have thought you were a pretentious oaf if you'd done
I'm sure
that.
she thinks I'm a pretentious oaf anyway, which is perfectly fine with me. So anyway, Charles Dickens' England. If on a scale of 1 to 10, okay, 10 is a film, right, and 1 is a television programme. Say, for example, Look North West. I mean, demonstrably a television programme as opposed to a film.
Local television programme.
Yeah, so a television programme.
Is that the lowest of the low? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just
cheap.
No, hang on. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm saying it is a television programme as opposed to a film. So on the one hand, you have 2001: A Space Odyssey, a film, right? Widescreen looks rubbish on television. On the other hand, you have Look North West, a television programme.
I think Look East is probably a bit cheaper.
Fine. In order to stop the bickering, I'll go for Look East, okay? So 1, Look East, 10, 2001. I would say The Queen, about 3, right? Charles Dickens' England, minus 50.
Oh, my word.
I sat in a cinema for 2 hours. 2 hours.
How long?
2 hours watching Derek Jacobi in a television programme that incidentally will be playing on Sky Arts in 2 48-minute episodes, wandering around London and other places going, here is a house that Charles Dickens once lived in. Who knows what he may have wrote here? And then walking off a little bit, then going, here is another house that Charles Dickens lived in. Here, he may have written something else. And then he gets into a car, and then he gets out of the car, and he goes, and here is another house.
That Simon Cowell you're doing now?
At one point, right, he does this brilliant moment. He goes, it's literally... Derek Jacobi takes you on a televisual tour of places that Charles Dickens might have once sat down. It's like the Houses programme, property, but with Charles Dickens as presented by the most incompetent presenter in the form of Derek Jacobi, fine Shakespearean actor, clearly unable to deliver to camera a line. And here is another place where Charles Dickens, 2 fantastic moments. One of them in which he's telling us all about the inspiration for Charles Dickens and where he got his characters from. He says, one thing we know about Charles Dickens is that many of his characters were inspired by names from graves. Here, for example, is a grave upon which is the name Dorrit, spelt D-O, blah, 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 blah. He goes,
all right.
And he goes,
I get the message.
Hang on.
No, you hang on. John Pinar's going to just talk about David Cameron. We'll come back to you. Sorry to interrupt you in full flow.
I need to do 2 things very quickly.
This is Charles Dickens'
I'm just going to
England.
finish this. Dickens is England, incidentally. Dickens, apostrophe S. I thought you just do Dickens with an apostrophe after it, but Dickens is England. 2 things. One of them is a fantastic moment when he shows us a gravestone and says, on this gravestone is the name Dorrit. It's not spelt the same, but it sounds the same. Yeah. That's therefore not the same name. And another moment which baffled me entirely, in which he's standing in the street in Chinatown in the West End. You know Chinatown in the West End, in London's busy West End.
Yes.
And he
bustling
says,
indeed.
And he says bustling Chinatown behind him. Many people who live in Chinatown, and he gestures to a building behind him and says, Dickens had lodgings here. And then he looks around at the new incumbent and says, I can't think what he would have made of it now. What does that even mean? And this goes on for 2 hours. 2 hours of he goes into restaurants and orders a dry white wine, and so we know he drinks dry white wine. At one point, we see that he's run up a taxi bill of £41.82. Why is there a tax return issue here? What's going on? I'm sorry. I would say that it was a bad film, except it's not a film. It's a television. I didn't go into film criticism to watch television programmes. I didn't.
It's the kind of thing you get as a free DVD with the Sunday Express.
It's the sort of thing that you get on an aeroplane on the way from America to England. Hey, what are we going to watch on the way to England? Let's watch Charles Dickens in England. With, it's got Derek Jacobi telling us about Charles Dickens and his England. And Plymouth Hoe. And, it's not a film. It's not a film. And please don't waste 2 hours of my life making me watch a television programme.